So good afternoon. My name is Dr. Eppanapally. I represent two different funds. One is called the Lead Impact Fund, another is called Elysium Fund. So both of them are focusing on the deep technologies and how we can integrate the technology to the human development by investing in various fields. Take, for example, health, education, environment, agriculture, energy. These are the things that are impacting the climate change, and the climate action is very much needed. So that's the reason I kind of decided to focus my rest of my life on this. I personally worked on Wall Street for over 30 plus years in different organizations, started with Credit Suisse, moved on to Alliance Bernstein, from there to Merrill Lynch, to BlackRock and Bank of New York Mellon. After having over 30 plus years of Wall Street experience, decided to contribute my rest of my life to impact investing. And the focus will be today's conversation on how do we bring humanity into a better living conditions and preserve and protect this planet for future generations by bringing technology into the mix. So I'll start with my journey on the Lead Impact Fund. So I was very much passionate about transforming the lives of individuals through education. And today's education is very much a classroom oriented, but during the COVID, we realized that education can be online as well. So over 1.5 billion people disrupted during the COVID, and most of them, high school students and college students, attending classes virtually from their homes. And thanks to Zoom and Microsoft meetings and all those technologies came to risk us during the COVID time, and we still were able to continue our education and graduate also. But this opened up a lot of opportunities, and the emerging technologies like metaverse can make a huge difference. Take, for example, somebody is attending an MIT or Harvard or Stanford, and it costs over $70,000 to $80,000 per year to sit in class, attend the session. Assume that if democratization of the same class can happen through the technology like metaverse, and if the same lecture is broadcast live through metaverse, and people sitting around the world can still access the same class virtually with an immersive experience. There's a lot of technologies coming in that way, and as you know, Facebook also came up with rebranding their company with Meta, and that gives you an idea of how the world is emerging into. I'm just providing an example of how the education field can transform the lives of the people who cannot afford to sit in a classroom of MIT or Stanford or Harvard, right? So now the programming language like Move can also come into play in this context, and thanks to AvesHack NYC 2022 for organizing symposium and promoting the Move coding into the market. And thanks for having me in this session. And then the healthcare field is also another area which is very passionate about. In order to continue to live on this planet and do some meaningful work, we all have to be very healthy. And the technology right now can make a huge difference. And that also, I'm just taking COVID as an example. And a lot of things are disrupted, as you know, including the healthcare, even in the advanced countries like US or UK, and we expose a lot of deficiencies in the healthcare field. And if we can bring technology into this mix, take, for example, telemedicine is one of the popularly used during the COVID time, and that is a technology intervention to have access to healthcare for the people who cannot afford to visit the medical facilities, but for basic things, for consulting a physician or getting a prescription done or some small procedures also can be guided through technology. And this is another area that technology is going to come up with a lot of opportunities. Before 5G came into the picture, 3G, 4G, they were not able to have the enough bandwidth or the way to access the live opportunities. Now with the 5G, there's a lot of opportunities opened up for this kind of medical treatment. A physician sitting in New York probably can provide guidance to some procedure happening in Africa as well. So again, telemedicine is one of those things, and metaverse kind of technologies can have an immersive experience between the patient and the physician sitting across the table virtually. And this, again, a great opportunity for innovation in the healthcare field. I'm just providing one snippet of this. And then the third thing is health, education, and environment. So the planet is for us for a transition period, but if we don't protect and preserve for the future generations, it's going to be a disaster for people living on this planet. Every living being on this planet will have an issue. So about a few years ago, I was visiting Alaska, and I could see how the glaciers and the ice is melting, and if we don't take care of this planet, and it is projected that by 2021, the sea levels are going to rise approximately 1 to 4 feet. And a lot of low-lying areas will be submerged into the seas and oceans, and that will have a disastrous effect. And you can already see the various floods happening around the world. And that requires a conscious decision to reduce the usage of plastic and styrofoam on this planet. That's one example. And also the kind of pesticides we are using. Take food that we are eating. It may be visibly look and feel. It could be an eggplant or a okra or the vegetable or cabbage or cauliflower. They may be looking as if they are vegetables, but most of the time it is grown by fertilizers, and that is causing a lot of health issues. Cancer-causing agents are there, and also a lot of insects and all those things are getting extinct because of the heavy usage of the chemicals and fertilizers in the soil. So we need to pay attention to the organic farming. That is one area. And the technology, take for example, Africa has got over 600 million hectares of arable land with good water and soil, pristine, never infected with chemicals or fertilizers. And if only thing missing there is an intervention of technology and the process and know-how, and also training of the people to do. And once you produce, there's a lot of things involved in terms of harvesting and logistics to post-harvesting, food processing, and then deploying those healthy food to the various markets in the world. And Africa is still importing food, but there's opportunity for them to be self-sufficient as well as to export food to the healthy food to the world. So this, again, there's a lot of technology intervention there in terms of environmental issues. Then coming into the energy, as you can see, today, most of them are internal combustion engines driven vehicles, and that uses diesel, petrol, these kind of things, and that is a perishable thing from the ground, and we cannot sustain that. And now, as you can see, Elon Musk came up with this Tesla company and producing battery operated cars, and there are other technologies also, hydrogen fuel cells and compressed hot air. There's a lot of technologies coming. So now, if you don't intervene today, if you continue to use the fossil fuels, and the planet will have a lot of carbon emissions, and that will degrade, the temperatures will be high, and the ice will be melting, the sea levels will be high. So this is another area that we need to focus on, producing clean energy using technologies. Until and unless we be conscious about reducing the pollution on this planet, we will have a lot of disruptive issues with our livelihood on this planet. So again, health, education, energy, agriculture, all these things require deep technology interventions. And take, for example, AI, blockchain, AR, VR technology, 5G technologies, and also ultimately leading to building smart cities. All these ingredients, if it can be incorporated into building smart cities to have a healthy life on this planet and sustainable life on this planet. So this is where I'm focusing on investing in these technologies that can make a difference in the health, education, environment, agriculture, and ultimately leading to smart cities. That is the lead impact fund I'm focusing on, which is a $1 billion equity and supplemented with a $4 billion debt. And if you take today's world, the markets are very in doldrums and raising equity will be an issue. But a lot of projects, if they are already there in their domestic markets with a product or a solution that they want to scale up, they require additional capital, and that can be supplemented through debt, and debt is available because the yields on the debt side is very lucrative in the current markets. Then the next thing is we are focusing on another fund called Elysium Fund, which focuses on, again, deep technologies, but emphasis on metaverse. It is a global metaverse fund with $1 billion. Again, the focus areas will be commerce and collaboration, health, education, energy, and ultimately leading to smart cities. And we are launching this year 350 million of that, and 50 million of the 350 million will be invested into startups, and 300 million is going into the growth companies, Meta Startup, Meta Enterprise, Meta Health, Meta Education, Meta Commerce and Collaboration, and Meta ESG and Smart Cities. That is our focus journey. And technologies are going to make a huge difference in terms of leveraging the human capital to enhance further and to use their time wisely to do a lot more things than what a normal manual human being can do. I think programming languages like Move, especially in the smart contracts where the supply chain logistics are going to have a huge need for that kind of languages. And I'm glad that AvesHack NYC 2020 is promoting the symposium on the Move code. I'm very happy to see that happening, and I heard last couple of days you're doing this Hackathon, big competition, and to have innovative ideas for solving various problems. And definitely it's a great idea. And the people behind it, like my good friend Jay Edmund, who brought me here today, I'm very grateful for him, and Francis and other people who are organizing this. Very happy to see them again. So where the opportunities for investing in, that's where I think most of you are maybe looking for. The sectors I mentioned, but the technologies, again, AI is the top of the list, and everywhere you need to have some kind of AL, ML kind of opportunity to identify the cinema and the data components. That way you can see what components can be automated, and the precision execution of that big analytics can make a difference because you're going to produce a result that is precise. Take, for example, genetic testing. So there's about 8 billion people on this planet, and each person is unique, but the human race itself is very identical with 99.99%. And if you can bring the genetic testing into the mix, you can have the amount of data that can identify what population of this universe has got a predefined condition. Either it could be potential pancreatic cancer, or brain tumor possibility, or a diabetic condition. And if we can allocate the budgets from the governments to solve those problems, then it can save a lot of amount of money treating the patients, and you can focus on preventive care. And I feel strongly that the governments have to step up to invest in genetic screening of this population to make sure that the dollars are allocated appropriately to prevent and reduce the amount of trauma for treating the patients rather than spending money after the fact. So that is one area that we can make a huge difference in using the genetic screening side on the healthcare side. And then coming into the 5G technology, that you have a lot of opportunities because 3G, 4G are totally different. 5G is a totally new way of handling things, and a lot of programming is needed in order to produce various solutions using the mobile devices that you have, IoT devices. Lot of data is needed to be processed because each IoT device produces so much of data, and the ALML is where it's going to make a big difference by putting together the pattern matching and having those anomalies identified. Take, for example, it could be a fraud detection and cross-border payments or trade financing or any of those things can use the blockchain kind of technology as well. And Move, I was told that it's very good for smart contracts, right? So again, blockchain on top of that, producing the smart contracts can reduce the amount of time for the transaction to realize, as well as eliminate the middleman and reduce the cost overall and increase the speed and the security of the transaction as well. Then in the banking industry, there's so many things happening, and cryptocurrency is one of my favorite subjects. Today, central banks are having a lot of control on how the banks should operate, how the transaction should happen. But using the crypto, there's a democratization of the currency. The central banks have to eventually release their control, and the transaction should happen smoothly through cross-border payments or trade finance, or any transaction for that sake should happen using the blockchain and cryptos. So there has to be a political will. Take, for example, G20 countries, they need to come together and say, this is it, and we need to release this control and do some regulation so that the consumers are protected using the cryptocurrencies. And as you know, that markets are very much in flux right now because of the various conditions, inflation and interest rate hikes. So eventually, my feeling is that crypto will be the way of currency for this world to move forward and increase the security and ease of transaction for people from different parts of the world can interact. It's all one planet, and we are globally connected now, and planet is emerging in the direction. So eventually the transactions have to take place using the cryptocurrency. Another area that we can focus is on producing a lot of energy that is needed for mobility purpose, because by 2030, every country is trying to transition from the IC engines into some kind of battery-operated cars. Either the technology could be batteries or hydrogen fuel cells or compressed hot air technology. Recently, I was in south of France, drove a test vehicle that was running using compressed hot air. Instead of having a battery or a hydrogen fuel cell, or they came up with a enhanced version of attaching a compressed hot air cylinder to the car, and they built a module on top of the IC engine. Instead of running the car using the diesel or petrol, the compressed hot air will be the fuel, and the exhaust is, interestingly, is a minus 20 degrees centigrade cold air. Imagine recycling the air to move the vehicle. It was a fascinating experience I personally had, and I test drove 3 different versions of those vehicles, and by 2025, they're bringing those vehicles into the market. And that gave me an idea of one of my friend, Jay, who's sitting here, is mentoring one company which is having a data centers. The data center needs energy to run the computers, and also at the same time, for the facilities, they need to have air conditioning. So if we can use this compressed hot air technology to produce energy to drive the computers, and at the same time, the exhaust, which is going to be a minus 20 degrees centigrade cold air, can cool those facilities. So a lot of opportunities in the energy sector. Among us, an amount of energy is needed for various initiatives that are happening. And again, this is an interesting opportunity for me, and I will be very happy to associate it with AvesHack NYC 2022. And thank you for inviting me. And there's so many opportunities to invest in the technology space, and that too to save humanity on this planet. Thank you so much for having me.